The Hall of Mirrors is the central gallery of the Palaces of Versailles in Versailles, France, as the principal and most remarkable feature of King Louis XIV of France's third building campaign of the Palaces of Versailles. Construction of the Hall of Mirrors began in 1678. To provide for the Hall of Mirrors as well as the Salon de la Guerre and the Salon de la Paix, which connect the Grand Appartement.The with the Grand Appartement de la Reine. Architect Jules Hardouin Mansart appropriated 3 rooms from each apartment as well as the terrace that separated the 2 apartments. The principal feature of this hall is the 17 mirror-clad arches that reflect the 17 arcaded windows that overlook the gardens. Each arch contains 21 mirrors with a total complement of 357 used in the decoration of the Galerie des Glaces. The arches themselves are fixed between marble pilasters whose capitals depict the symbols of France. These gilded bronze capitals include the fleur-de-lis and the Gallic cockerel or rooster. Many of the other attributes of the Hall of Mirrors were lost to war for financial purposes, such as the silver table pieces and gueridons, which were melted by order of Louis XIV in 1689 to finance the War of the League of Augsburg. Construction. In the 17th century, mirrors were among the most expensive items to possess at the time. The Venetian Republic held the monopoly on the manufacture of mirrors, in order to maintain the integrity of his philosophy of mercantilism, which required that all items used in the decoration of Versailles be made in France. Jean-Baptiste Colbert enticed several workers from Venice to make mirrors at the Manufacture Royal de Glaces de Miroirs. According to legend, in order to keep its monopoly, the government of the Venetian Republic sent agents to France to poison the workers whom Colbert had brought to France. The Hall of Mirrors dimensions are 73.0 meters times 10.5 meters times 12.3 meters and is flanked by the Salon de la Guerre and the Salon de la Paix. Construction on the gallery and its 2 salons continued until 1684, at which time it was pressed into use for court and state functions. The ceiling decoration is dedicated to the political policies and military victories of Louis XIV. The central panel of the ceiling, Le Roi gouverne par lui-même, alludes to the establishment of the personal reign of Louis XIV in 1661. The present decorative schema represents the last of 3 that were presented to Louis XIV. The original decorative plan was to have depicted the exploits of Apollo, being consistent with the imagery associated with the Sun King, Louis XIV. However, when the king learned that his brother, Philippe, Duke of Orleans, had commissioned Pierre Mignard to decorate the ceiling of the Grande Gallery of his brother's residence at Château de Saint-Cloud, Louis XIV rejected the plan. The next decorative plan was one in which the exploits of Hercules, as allegories to the actions of Louis XIV, were to be depicted. Again, as with the first plan, the Hercules theme was rejected by the king. The final plan represents military victories of Louis XIV, starting with the Treaty of the Pyrenees to the Treaty of Nijmegen. In a departure from the decoration of the ceilings in the Grand Appartement.The, Lebrun has depicted Louis XIV directly, and has ceased to refer to the king in allegorical guises. In this way, themes such as good governance and military prowess are rendered with Louis XIV himself as a key figure. Functions. During the 17th century, the Hall of Mirrors was used daily by Louis XIV when he walked from his private apartment to the chapel. At this time, courtiers assembled to watch the king and members of the royal family pass, and might make a particular request by intoning, "Sire Marley." This was the manner in which one was able to obtain a much sought-after invitation to one of the king's house parties at Marly-le-Roi, the Villa Louis XIV, built north of Versailles on the route to Saint-Germain-en-Laye. However, of all the events that transpired in this room during the reign of Louis XIV, the Siamese embassy of 1685 to 1686 must be cited as the most opulent. At this time, the Galerie des Glaces and the Grand Appartements were still appointed with silver furniture. In February 1715, Louis XIV held his last embassy in the Galerie des Glaces, one in which he received Myrabella, ambassador of the Shah of Persia. In the successive reigns of Louis XV and Louis XVI, the Hall of Mirrors continued to serve for family and court functions. Embassies, births, and marriages were feted in this room. However, perhaps the most celebrated event of the 18th century occurred on the 25th of February 1745, the celebrated Bal des Ifs. It was during this costume ball that Louis XV, who was dressed as a yew tree, met Jean Antoinette Poisson de Tilleuls, who was costumed as Diana, goddess of the hunt. Jean Antoinette, who became Louis XV's mistress, is better known to history as the Marquise de Pompadour. In the 19th century, at the conclusion of the Franco-Prussian War, the Prussian king, William I, was declared German emperor, thus establishing the German Empire on the 18th of January 1871 in the Hall of Mirrors by Bismarck and the victorious German princes and lords. This was seen as a victory with heavy symbolism for the Germans and a stinging insult for the defeated French. French Prime Minister Clemenceau chose the Hall of Mirrors to sign the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I on the 28th of June 1919. The Hall of Mirrors is still pressed into service for state occasions of the Fifth Republic, such as receptions for visiting heads of state. Gallery